hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss about something which is very common in Agile world, and we are going to go a bit philosophically to understand this topic rather than overall bookish thing that you generally get in on LinkedIn or any other any other platforms or books and all that. So estimation. I'm not going to talk about why estimation, why not estimation and all that, but a very simple thing about how do we do estimation, right? In that also there is a very specific thing that I'm going to talk about today, is why we do not do estimation in hours. Now this is a topic of a debate. People come and tell why we cannot do estimation in hours because we are doing exactly the same thing, estimation, right? Why we need to do in story points, why we need to do in any other methods, right? I do not go and say, hey, you do it on story points. I do not say, hey, do not do in any other bucket sizing or anything like that, or t-shirt sizing. Point is that first thing, why do we do estimation? I guess we have spoken about it a lot of time. Why do we do estimation? Second thing, why not in hours? And that's what exactly we are going to discuss today, that why not in hours. Now, estimation, why? Because we want to predict things, right? I mean, this is something very human in nature. We want to control the unpredictable. We know we cannot. That's something that we should have learned through our history, that we cannot really control any unpredictable outcome. But this intention is not to go and control the outcome, rather to plan for that unpredictability better, right? So we are not trying to control the outcome or the result of it, but trying to plan better for that unpredictable nature, right? So that's why we need to see how can we predict better, and that's why estimation. Now just imagine this condition. We are saying that we want to code something, and I'm talking in terms of software development, right? And we say that, okay, we want to do this development, and we are doing whatever methods you're doing. Let's say the planning poker, that we are doing through planning poker, and say that we are estimating, and this would take 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours. What does it mean? That means a person is working for 8 hours to develop this piece of code. From where this is coming from? This mentality or this attitude that 8 hours of work equivalent to some piece of code. And I'm not talking about managers, I'm not talking about leaders, I'm talking about us people, right? We do that. We do the estimation like that, right? It's coming from the Industrial Revolution. When Industrial Revolutions took place, all this industry came into existence, right? You might have heard about Frederick Taylor, and he taught us the first time, about how do we manage things. In 1911, he wrote a book on time management, right? And he was probably the first management guru, right? And he modern times, in modern world, of course, right? And then he spoke about how that we should have classification: people who work, who do things, and people who think. So he classified basically, and Henry Ford was one of the person who was highly influenced by Taylor's work, and they worked together in Ford, and they increased the production of Ford as well. But the thing is, they classified work into 2 categories. One is a worker, another was a thinker, right? So what do people do? People, when we are working, that's a red work. That means you are doing things that you are asked to do. There is no cognitive thinking. There is no cognitive thinking behind it. And then the people who are working the blue work, there is only cognitive thinking. They do not do anything. So they do not have any idea how to work, do things. And so at that time it was beneficial because they were asking people to do mundane things, do the things, simple things routinely. They're training, for example, sorting bolt, for example, picking something, for example, uh, carrying some material from one place to another. That was routine, right? They were hiring people who were less skilled, and they were doing things, so they did not think about anything. Why they are doing what they are doing, they had no idea, right? So this remained within us in management, and we think that we all are doing red work. When we say do things in 8 hours, that means you are saying you continuously work for 8 hours. For example, it might be you say no, it's estimation, we are not saying 8 hours. Yeah, it could be 6 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, plus minus 4, 5. But if you continue to work for this many hours, you are going to get things done, because there are procedures that you need to follow, and you do that is a kind of a red work. Now what? Because when you are doing development, when you are doing things which involve cognitive thinking on the blue work, along with the red work, you cannot estimate everything within the time frame. You need to pause, think. Is this the best way? Is this all that I need? Do I have risk here? Do I, what kind of uncertainty I'm dealing with? Right? Is this effort is going to make any impact or not? There are so many other things that you deal with, right? We do not recognize that we are also doing cognitive work. We think, we just do not do things. It's not only hands, right? It's also brain. So when we combine those two things, there are so many other things that needs to be done. The reflections, we need to do reflections on the work that we are doing, right? Take any example. Whenever, for example, in manufacturing, we see how Toyota changed this entire thing, right? In Ford and everyone, they kind of follow the Taylorism, and Toyota changed the way of manufacturing the way they did through simply this format. They said, look, it can be red work, it can be blue work. We need to pause and think how. Whenever there was a problem in the plant, they used to say pause, right? How they used to do pause? They used to pull the unknown cord, right? A paper lantern kind of thing where you pull the cord and that gets lightened up, and a supervisor, whoever would be near around, needs to go there immediately at the place plant where the unknown cord is lighting. So what happened? It's paused. The red work is paused. We are trying to think what's going wrong. The people who were doing, they thought, okay, there is something wrong. It's not the same thing, right? What the outcome is not what it's supposed to be. So we are pulling this plug, right? And the supervisor comes and checks and sees what the problem is. So we are going into the zone of cognitive working. And then once that is solved, we come back to the red zone of working or the doing again, because now the problem is solved, so we go back to the things that we were doing. In case it doesn't solve, it used to be stopped. The plant used to stop within stipulated time, because we do not really want the error to go forward and create waste. And the problem with this is waste. I tell you why people try to control this and say we have to do this in hours. You ask any manager, or you ask any person, especially manager who are coding, they would say, or who are part of the estimation, they'd say we'll do it in 8 hours or 10 hours. And I'd ask, okay, we need to give some time to reflect, pause, and all that. Pause is where you are not working, you are not doing anything, you are not coding, but you are thinking. You are thinking about things. So you are not really, in a sense, you are not really working, or you are coding at that point. For people, that is waste, right? That is waste, because you are not doing anything, so it's a waste. And what we should do with the waste? We all talk about lean. People who come with agile experience, they say, hey, you are talking about eliminating waste, and exactly what that way you're doing. We are eliminating waste. So that's why 8 hours, that means solid 8 hours of work, we are eliminating waste. Yeah, and that's what the problem is, because again, you are not including that pause which is needed for cognitive thinking, because you do not want the thing that you're saying it's for robotic work, it's mechanic. That's not how things work in knowledge industry, not even in a manufacturing industry any longer, right? It's not robotic. It's not that you give some input and an output comes, right? Even if you do things, if I'm a person, if I record the same video, obviously I would talk on the same topic differently. There would be some different points every time I record it. Doesn't matter. Even if I come with the same repository of knowledge that I have, I'll come back and I'll say it a different flow, different way, different approach. My voice modulation would be different. Entire thing would be different. It will be a different product altogether. So there will be variation, because this is how life system works. There is no input, there is no output. There is a way of how you say that, how you do that thing at that point of time, right? The moment we say, we stop, we pause, we think, and we try to recollect, we put different points all together. Even if you read from some script, even if you have a script and you're trying to read it, the way you read it would be different every time, right? The more if you do not if you haven't read the script, you'll be not so confident at the beginning, but slowly as you keep reading it, you will be more confident, be more fluent, right? You try to think about it because you have now understood the content. So it's very important that we understand the necessity of pause, necessity of thinking, and that's why if you simply estimate in hours, there's no point. Or you say we are going to do in story pointing, one story point is equal to 2 hours is the one and the same thing. You are not really thinking. You talk about doing. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you are estimating in terms of doing. Now, how do you do it? You can take any way. I don't mind whether you do it in story points, you do it in t-shirt sizing, or you do it in bucket sizing. My point is, whenever you are estimating, remember you are considering the entire plot: unpredictability, effort, volume of work, what are the risks associated with it, what are the uncertainty that you're dealing with. So you have so many cognitive points here while you are working, and that's why I say this is a story point 8. Just for an example, if we take it story point 8, that means this story, the requirement that we are working on, is much complex, is much more complex than the one that we have here, which is 5, which is much more complex than 3 that we have, right? It'll take more time to complete it, right? It takes more effort. There is a lot of risk and associated, risk and uncertainty. So you are doing a relative estimation. I'm not going into detail of relative estimation. That's a different. We know that concept. We have read it plenty of times. But that's the essence of it, right? So, but whenever you are putting some unit, a wholesome unit, right? You are actually considering the cognitive thing as well. And now, it need not to be hour, because the moment you say 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, and one dimensional thing about doing, and when you see the results, because what you do at the end, you would see your predictability, right? How much predictable we were. And you see you estimated for 8 hours and you took 16 hours, you would think, so we took double the time. We took double the time to finish the story, or we took triple the time. Why? What happened? Why did you take triple the time? Did your line of code increase? Maybe your line of code decreased. Maybe you were not sure. And I have seen people explaining, oh, well, I was confused, I didn't understand. And immediately people came and judged those people who said we are confused. Yes, they were confused. Good. They did not do what they were, if they were confused, they tried to resolve, they tried to ask questions, they tried to clarify instead of building something which they did not understand. That's exactly, we should appreciate them if they were confused, if they asked the question. If they were confused and they did not do anything, that's a problem. Right? But if they were confused and they asked questions, why? It's a good sign. They're trying to learn. And more importantly, they're trying to build the right thing. Not just building. Right? So, in that way, we do not do justice by doing estimation in hours. Right? If you do not need to do estimation, I'm totally fine with it. I'm not saying that let's go and do estimation. It only helps you to predict. It also helps you to plan better. There is no other role. If you do planning poker, the way it is designed, the way it is built, it helps you to talk about the story more. It helps you to engage with people. It builds that narrative of that story, which is very important, which is needed. Right? The soul of that process is discussion, not that number. Right? People often get lost into that number and say why 5, why 8, why 3. That's not the purpose. We have nothing to do with the numbers. You increase that number to 30, 80, 50. It doesn't really make any difference. The soul of it is the discussion. The soul of it is that we are trying to understand all these aspects that we spoke about. And all those cognitive points, where do we shift from one? Look, if a developer is in a flow, he'll code in a flow, right? That's not much cognitive thinking for him at that moment. But the moment got stuck, the moment she needs to think something else, then it needs time. We need to respect that, right? So that's why we need to think. That's why we need to build that momentum platform to understand, to clarify all those questions, right? To go and think about the rest, talk about those uncertainties that she is dealing with, and that's why this process is very important, right? It's not waste of time if you see in that way, right? But again, it's up to that. Whatever it works for one team, it might not work for another team, right? But yes, that's a challenge that I think we have with ours. But let me know if you have any other question during regarding estimating with hours or estimating with story pointing. It'll be a great, and this is not only applicable for Scrum, or it can be applicable for anything. Even if you are doing an agnostic agile way of working, if you're doing it in Kanban, that's also fine. Remember the velocity stuff, and some people talk about this, and I'll briefly touch upon and probably talk about in a different video. And I have spoken about it a lot of time for the Kanban estimation. Also, they talk about, hey, we have velocity in Scrum, they have throughput in Kanban and all that, right? All this, whether it's velocity or is throughput or whatever, right? Remember, these are all a planning tool, right? So that means if your velocity is 30, that simply means, okay, we can roughly plan around 30 story point of work in a sprint. That's it. That helps you. That is the planning that I was talking about, right? That's it. There is nothing that does not equate for productivity, that does not equate you for a better team, that does not have any other meaning. It does not translate to anything else. This is the only work of velocity, right? Direction, because it's a vector. Velocity is a vector unit, right? So it has speed as well as direction. So remember that when you are dealing with estimation, you are considering everything else. You are not subjecting your developers who are a cognitive thinker into robots who just work. They do not think. I hope that clarifies. Please put your questions, your thoughts, and your comments down below, and please let me know if you want to know anything more about this topic, and I will see you soon.